And we are live.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Norwalk Public Library Board of Directors for April 8th. In attendance are Moyna, Mary, Janie, Sharon, Ralph, Patsy, Alex, and Acting Director Sherelle Harris. So we have a quorum. Did I miss anybody? Okay, if not, then we'll turn to the agenda. First item on the agenda, does anyone have any additions they would like to make? If not, any members of the public like to make comments? It does not include Mohindar, who's going to have his own spot on the agenda if he's able to join us. Then we'll move to the approval of the minutes of March 11th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Ralph Bloom moves to approve. I thought they were well done. I didn't have any recommended changes. Is there anyone who would like to make any proposed revisions? I have the minutes on my screen. If somebody has a hand up or something, I can't see it. So if you would.
Sharon, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Number 9, just the adjournment of the directors meeting still needs to be filled out with there's some empty sections.
Oh, yes.
Page
Sorry.
4.
Thank you. I'm sorry. So the
So number 9 at the very end. Page 4.
Right. So return to public session at 8:30 p.m. Alex moved to adjourn the meeting. And Ralph seconded. So the meeting adjourned at the 8:30 p.m. Could our colleague from Telesco, did you get that?
I did, thank you.
Thank you.
I did get
Alrighty.
that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for remembering that. Assuming those are non-controversial additions, are there any other recommended changes to the minutes? If not, all in favor of the minutes as amended, please indicate aye. Aye. Are there any objections? Are there any abstentions?
I'm abstaining because I couldn't get into the
Right.
meeting.
Patsy Brescia abstains, then the motion to approve the minutes as amended is.
Yeah, I'd like to show that I was not able to get into the meeting rather than not attending.
Right. Could our colleague from Telesco please also, under attendance, indicate that Ms. Brescia attempted to join but was unable to make the Zoom connection? Okay. Thank you. All right. Is Mohinder Kelsey able to join us?
He said he didn't receive the invite. He's actually calling now. Rebecca said she sent it, so I'm not sure. Hello, Sherelle speaking. It's Rebecca. Rebecca said she sent the link earlier. Okay, so she's copied in the email. So they actually, Anthony, are you able to send him the link? He said he never received it from Rebecca.
Sure. Email me his email address.
Will do. Okay, so just check now. Somebody will send it in a few minutes. Okay, we're gonna send it now. All right, bye-bye. You're very welcome. Bye-bye. Okay, Anthony, I'm sending it now. Okay, I just hit send.
All right, checking.
Board members may recall that I sent out some previous correspondence with Mohinder several days ago to refresh your recollection.
All right, link sent.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Anthony.
No problem.
I sent background about this on April 6th to all the board members at 8:25 PM, so you know.
Anthony, it just came to my inbox, so it probably just went to his too.
Is it working?
Okay, guys, I'm in.
I'm here.
Yeah,
Good afternoon. Good
I'm gonna
evening,
get off.
everybody.
Okay, Mohinder,
I'm here.
welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for this link, timely link, just to know.
Yeah, so Mohinder, we're having our April Board of Directors meeting of the library, and
Beautiful.
we have an agenda item regarding the issue that you presented some time ago, and
Yes.
wanted to give you an opportunity to address the board with your concerns. I'm sure you know that we have other topics to cover tonight, so we would ask you to be as succinct and direct as you can. And we thank you for sharing your opinions with us.
Yes, first of all, I apologize. Alex, how do you pronounce your last name?
Knopp.
Knott. Okay, I got it. Thank you, Mr. Knott. Thank you very much. If you may allow me to introduce myself, I could start.
Please.
Okay, my name is Mohinder Singh Khalsi. I'm a resident of Norwalk. I'm associate with a Sikh institution here. We call it the place of worship, Gurudwara. It's not too far from the library. I moved from upstate New York in 2019, and I used to visit the library. And the first thing I did is became a member of the library when I came to beautiful city of Norwalk. And obviously, when I enter, on the right-hand side, there was a table, and it has special books on it. And there are some books on Sikhism. Sikhism is one of my faith. And there were some books on Buddhism, another faith. And I just picked it up, but naturally it started thumbing it through. Great. And then I went further and down on the left side, and there were some books like I would say about 1/4 inch thick. And I saw this book here. And I looked through every books, and this was the book on our Guruji, you know. Just for information, the Sikhs is the 5th largest organized faith in the world. It started in 1469 by our first Guru, and then the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and the 10th Guru was Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And they're compiled in a holy scripture that we read, we understand, and run our life to be a spiritually, to be a good citizen. So when I saw the book, and it got my attention. This is the picture on the nice cover. You have that book, you know, a copy of that. And I took that out and I read it. It was, the contents are contents, you know. I get one thing. What was objectionable? Well, it was a derogatory, and it was in the form of a cartoonist. That the faith is being represented, who was our last guru of the Sikh faith, is shown in the form of a cartoon. And that's very objectionable. So I took the book out and let the book read to the other members of this. And then the organization wrote a letter. It was Christine Bradley at the time, and I worked with Cindy Leahy. She was, and we said, we'll have a meeting. And then unfortunately, we have a COVID, and we cannot meet that. And then I have few correspondence and telephone conversation with Christine, and I brought a number of books. Cindy, though they can catalog, they can put in the library, you know. Okay, Cindy knows that, you know. But I don't know if they have been cataloged, put on the shelf or not. So my humble request is that I don't want to be any troublemaker, anybody. I'm a part of the library. I pay taxes. Here, I will fully support the library. But that book, which is objectionable, it has a derogatory writings in it. It is formed in a cartoonist, which represents my faith. I humbly request you to remove that book. We can substitute that book, many books as you want. In fact, if you read my writing that I have written on January 20th, I have the letter here on 2020, 243. It explains very well my position. It is my testimony, and I can send you my testimony in writing again. I will humbly request you to remove those books. It's only one book, by the way. It's not many other books, only one book. That's objectionable. It has a derogatory statements in it. It is form of a cartoonist. And you remember that. Few years back, you know, in France, and Muhammad the Prophet was portrayed in the form of a cartoonist. You know how much bloodshed was there? We are peace-loving people. We don't want to go to that level, and we will never go to that level. but we are so humbly requesting you. I'll work with you. The organization will work with you. We will provide you any support you need on the Sikh faith. Okay, and I'm humbly requesting you to remove that book. That's my position. That's our position, not only my position. That's the organization position. I just happen to be a representative of the organizations here and writing this letter the way it was written. I will be happy to answer anybody's question that you may have.
All right. Well, thank you, Mohinder, for presenting tonight. Let me first ask, does any board member wish to ask a question of Mohinder? May I call you Mohinder, by the way?
Yeah, that's my first name. In fact, I like to call myself by my first name. And do you mind if I call you Alex, or you want me to call Mr. now?
Just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay, beautiful. So we are friends for life.
I don't
And
know if you
next time,
remember,
let me
but,
know how can I join the library board member as well? Because
Good, I don't-
I love to read. I love to be a part of the organization.
Good. I don't know if you remember, but Mayor Rilling, when he was police chief, and I visited Sikh
Yes,
service.
he did.
Yeah, so he and I did right after 9/11, and I was mayor in 2002.
Yeah, in fact, hopefully the next couple of years, we'll be moving from that place. We purchased a land on 280 on Richards Avenue, and we are planning to build a beautiful place of worship. We call it a temple / Guru Dwara. Guru is a guru. Dwara is the door to the guru's teaching. So we call it, in our language, we call it Guru Dwara. It's a temple. So hopefully, we have been working with with the city planning and zoning department. They're very helpful people. I've been working with the mayor, Harry Rawlings. I mean, I could not get any better support than the city of Norwalk. And I'm
That's good
seeking
to
the
hear.
same support from the library as
That's
well.
good to hear.
I'll do anything for the library you tell me to do.
Thank you. So let me first ask, would anybody on the board like to ask any question of Mohinder? So I have a question. If nobody else does, I have a question, Mohinder.
Sure.
As I looked at the material way back, I mean, over a year ago now, when Chris was still here,
Yeah.
it struck me that the book you are talking about did not strike me as a cartoon in the way I expected it, because it is in the form of what we call generically a graphic novel or a graphic book, drawn often for young people in a new form that's developed and become very mainstream in the last 10 years or so. So I'm wondering, is your definition of what constitutes a cartoon cover any drawing, even if the intent is not to depict in a cartoonish fashion, but rather to depict merely in a graphic, non-literary fashion, the content of the book? In other words, I'm trying to decide, as I looked at your material, and I confess it was over a year ago, that I was expecting a kind of a cartoonish, distorted image, and found instead what is commonly called a graphic novel or a graphic book that was not containing exaggerated, cartoonish representations, but rather simply had a graphic presentation of content. And I'm curious, do you distinguish between those two things?
Okay, I hear you. You know, I'm sorry to say the library is accepting and inserting material to a Sikh faith which is in a graphic and a cartoonist fashion, is an insult to my Sikh faith. So please, if you could refrain from having this material, the Sikh community as a whole will appreciate that.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mohinder?
I'm really, I haven't seen the book. And I'm sorry that I haven't, but I'm really just troubled by the concept that is pretty accepted in our country for freedom of speech, that people can say, unfortunately, many of the unkind, inappropriate things that they are able to say, but it's a tenet of our democracy. So that are we asked to take a position of removing books from the library that other people might object to for one reason or another? And I think this is a very serious question to be asked and for our library board to measure and make a very in-depth, concentrated, sincere response to. So I think we need more guidance. I don't know, Alex, where we can get that guidance, but this is not an easily resolved issue.
Well, let me say anything. Hold on. Okay, I lost. Oh, recording. Can I say a few things here?
Please.
Okay. You know that I'm a Sikh. I wear a turban. I have brought the issue with the state of Connecticut, and Bob Duff is representing us. He has proposed a bill called SB 120, allowing the Sikhs to wear a turban in the police force, as well as in the other profession. Okay, and that's based on the First Amendment. You mentioned about the freedom of speech. It's a serious issue, but you have the right. You believe you're right. It's a very, very serious issue even for the Sikh faith, accepting the material in the library, which is very insulting. So please be careful. Okay, please be mindful to the faith of the Sikhs in general. India is a secular country. There are many faiths in India. Now with this new government, they're trying to enforce the Hinduism on everybody else. They said, and they're trying to set it up that the Sikhs are a terrorist organization. They're trying to give the message that, look at this picture here, which resembles with Osama bin Laden. Okay, it's very serious. Okay, we don't accept that book in that form, in the cartoonist form. It's wrong. Please don't encourage us to do anything different, okay, and taking to the next level if we have to. It's very objectionable. The material is derogatory. The graphic form to giving a message to the children that this faith is of that kind, that's not true. Okay, so please help us. We can provide you the material that you need. Sure, you have the right, but do you believe you have the right to insert a faith, which is the largest faith in the world? One of the 5th largest faith in the world?
Okay,
That's I can
thank
say.
you. Okay. Mohinder, maybe since we've had a transition of executive director since you first contacted the library, maybe you could resend any material you had sent to Chris Bradley again. And the library board obviously will be discussing this issue before making a decision on your request. And we would benefit from seeing any additional material that you sent that, because of the passage of a year, may not have been presented to us.
Alex, all the email that I had corresponded, I have shared with the Cheryl Harris.
Okay.
He has it.
All
and
right.
And the list of books that I have provided, Cindy has it. I purchased new books and provided to the library. She has it. I don't know what else material I can give you. I can forward the same email to your attention. I'll be happy to do that. But Cheryl has already had that material, all the emails.
And
Okay.
I've shared it, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any further questions at this time? If not, Mahinder, I want to thank you for making your presentation. We're not going to be making a decision tonight, but we will take it up and we'll get back to you with a decision when we've rendered it.
Yeah, and then let me know how you can become a member of your library board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right.
Alex,
Yes.
I have some guidance from ALA. Do you want me to send it directly to you?
I think you can circulate that to the board would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question on this subject?
Please.
Yeah. Have we had any legal counsel on this?
Not as far as I know yet,
And
but that would be a
the,
very,
I imagine that there,
next- Yeah, next steps are to, deal with it.
yes.
and I imagine that he like, this is, not not a very uncommon issue with certain groups and certain faith groups and certain, ethnicities. So I'm wondering how we can take advantage of some kind of library resources. You said you sent something from the ALA, which is great because,
Yep, I'm sending it now.
and I guess I was just having a hard time understanding whether the book itself is inaccurate, like really like negative caricatures. I don't have it in front of me. It was a while ago. So, like kind of was the objection more kind of around cultural representations using cartoons, or actually kind of hateful language and like offensive caricatures? So
So this is the book. I don't know if you can see it. And so I think the objection is just, I think it's part of their culture. It's just not, they feel that, I guess it's disrespectful to have cartoons, no matter, whether they look innocent or not. So it's in graphic novel form. So that's basically, can you see, Moina?
yeah, I can. And I kind of remember from last year looking at it, but not like reading it. So I was just wondering if it's like the actual, is it like the depiction of the guru, there's just a lot of like, well, I'm like, very much a First Amendment person. I do think there are, kind of lines around hate speech and, offensive caricatures and things like that. So I just, I'm trying to like see where. It seems okay. I don't know. Like I don't have it, so like it's hard for me to know exactly.
But I think it may be that, this is one of those issues we'll be taking up when we could meet again in person and actually see the materials. In the meantime, the idea of seeing what the American Library Association says about these kinds of requests and these kinds of resources, and then to decide based on that to incorporate what Patsy suggests about any legal counsel, and review all the material that Mohinder sent. I'd be a little cautious about referring to this material as a cartoon, which I think is a particular characterization, and whether we think all graphic novels are cartoons may be something that we would want to take into consideration.
Be possible to copy the book, which seems like it's about 8 pages, 10 pages, and send it out to us via email. Sherelle, is that doable or? Because I haven't seen it. I have no, I
Seen it.
really, I have no idea what they're talking about. I happen to have a very close friend who has done an international documentary on the Shiite faith, and I don't know how to put this in perspective. I'm
Okay.
looking for some help on that, and so I'd like to see at least what we're talking about. I have no idea what we're really talking about here, and I
Gotcha.
feel is a disadvantage.
I'd
All right,
like
so
to know at some point what Sherelle thinks too, and, you know, some librarians who have the background, and this sort of thing.
Mhm.
Maybe not right now, but at some point.
Well, yeah, so LLA, you know, basically is the freedom of information, but they do have some information for reconsideration. So when people send things in, so I guess it would be up to us to maybe create a policy of whether we just don't do it at all, or whether we take things on a case by case basis.
It seems a little preemptory for us right now. I'd like to see what we're talking about. First step, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then Alex, if you could investigate any potential legal advice from the city, that would be helpful.
Okay,
As a starting point for discussion.
right. Okay. Well, these are all good suggestions, and first thing, we'll circulate a copy of the text and look at the other information that have been sought, and then return to the issue. All right, if there's no further discussion,
I guess my only discussion is what is our next, I mean, do we just, with Mohinder, is there any kind of follow-up, like, after him coming, or like, what is our follow-up with him?
well, I thought I said to him that we would be acting on the issue after we do some further research and discussion.
Thought it was clear that you said you would get back to him.
Okay,
Yes. And I think somebody who makes this kind of specific request is entitled to a explicit decision. Okay, let me move back then to let me go on to, I know it's a little bit out of order, but let me go on to my report if I could, because I want to get these policies addressed as a high priority here. So first of all, so going into item 8 on the agenda, then we'll go back to item 5. So as you may have read, the two main program-related capital budget requests of the library are now in the capital budget that goes to the Common Council next Tuesday. As you may recall, the finance director slashed both of them out of his proposed capital budget. The Planning Commission restored the Norwalk Hour digitization, but did not restore the main branch auditorium refresh. I spoke to the mayor and he agreed to restore the auditorium refresh, but he cut out the Norwalk Hour digitization. And then Sherelle and I attended by Zoom the planning committee of the Common Council meeting earlier, and asked them to restore the $38,000 for the Norwalk Hour digitization based on the principle that completing a multi-year project makes a lot of sense before starting new projects. And the committee agreed, and it did restore the $38,000 for the next year of the,
And that's final, that's the final year, right, Alex?
no, it's not. There's one more year after.
more.
that. It's
After
the-
that?
It's the 4th out of 5 years
Okay.
that we asked for restoration. And so that, as you may have seen in our article yesterday that I circulated to the board, or in Nancy on Norwalk this morning, those funds were restored. It's $38,000, and hopefully they can find, the adjustments that they need to. So fingers crossed, our 2 little projects have survived the storm, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that they get through the Common Council next Tuesday. Any questions about
No,
capital
that's
budget?
Great. Thanks for pushing that forward.
Yes, agree. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Sherelle.
Okay, the next item on is item 8B, which is a consideration of several new or revised public library board policies. I indicated that in the agenda that we would not be acting on them until the next board meeting as a sort of a matter of custom, so that we could review them and think about them before acting. But it may be that in the short term, we might want to deal with item 1, material gifts and donations, since there may be gifts and donations sort of being made. So let's take them up in order. And hang on a moment, Ralph has called me again. Hey, Ralph.
The phone dropped. I just got it back.
Are you okay now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it just dropped.
Okay. So you're not going to be on my phone, correct?
I'm on your phone right now.
But you said the phone you were able to get back on.
Well, yes. Well, if I'm not on your phone, whatever one I'm on, that's what dropped. But
Oh.
it just came back, so I got it.
All right. So are you going to get off my phone?
Who's on first?
In front of me, I assume that's the one I'm on.
Okay, well, let's just proceed.
All right.
Okay, so the item about material gifts and donations. Sherelle, do you want to please summarize and describe the policy that's being proposed?
Sure. So it's just, we have several different donations that come in. So it's just a way to make it clear to the people who are handling those donations where they belong. So people are not sort of cross, mingling unless, they're advising each other. And then, I ran it by supervisors. And so it was just a nice, clear, concise policy for how we want to handle donations going forward. And also to have internally that will mark whether it's for the Friends, whether it's for Norwalk Reads, or whether it's for the history room. So people know exactly where to put the items when they come in. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. Okay. So my first question is, number 1, why is Sono branch broken out from the main branch? Why?
They didn't want items on we did have adult and children, but they didn't want them. They figured the things can go to the Friends, and then whatever they need, they can get it from that box. Because sometimes when things come in for children or for adult, sometimes it may not make it to Sono. So I just opted to put Sono there because it's 2 separate buildings.
Okay. All right. So this is my general look at this. The books or whatever come in to the system. And so does the donor designate that they want them to go to one branch versus the other branch, which could be an option that the donor specifically wants and appropriate. But if it's just one branch is designated, it's implied it goes to the other, or what does it imply? So I think, to me, that needs to be clarified. And I think the other things are clear, the history collection, the Friends, the Norwalk Reads. But then when we get down to the verbiage underneath, if you don't want any of the four above categories, you can go to general. So why wouldn't we also have general as a fifth category rather than just a verbal option?
Yep, that makes sense.
Does that make sense to?
Yep. Perfect sense.
Okay. Because I think the clearer it is
Yeah, 1 second, Ralph.
to the donor, my point is, the clearer it is to the donor is looking at it simplistically, they know where it wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so the easier and the simpler it is for a donor to say, this is where I want my donation to go, makes it easier for everybody in the long run. Less
No, I
discussion.
think so.
Yeah.
And that's the general point. So
Yeah.
basically, sometimes people don't want, they're like, just take it, just do whatever you want. So that's where the generality came in, but your point is well taken.
Yeah. So if it's not specific, it's general, and maybe you start out with general and then, yeah, because we donate a lot of books to the library and I never think about where I want them to go. It never comes into my head. It's just to the library, wherever you need them and wherever you can use them. So, yeah.
Well, sometimes there's internal debates about who gets what. So it also helps us internally as well. Okay. So when they come in, we can label the books so that if this person thinks that's for them, they know exactly who the books are for. So it helps us both externally and internally.
Okay, so that what my thoughts would help, I think, with that, to get rid of any confusion.
Got it.
Okay, Ralph would like to make a comment.
Okay.
For those of you who are not familiar with book sales, I have chaired the book sales for the library for the last 20 years under the last 3 directors. The procedure that was set up is simple and it works. Donations coming into the library are donated to the Friends of the Library for fundraising. When the sale is set up in the auditorium, there's a week between the setup and the actual sale. Department heads, whether it be the children's department, whether it be adult, whomever, they get a chance to go over everything before the sale starts. But they get to see everything at one time, and they make their selection. Last year, 2019, was the last actual book sale. And we rescued over 300 books that wound up going into the general collection. Right now, there's a 27-page inventory of books that the library is looking for. Books, either they're out of print, we have books that need to be exchanged because our copies are poor, and sometimes it's an edition we just never had a chance to buy. We do get a lot of first editions, but they go into the sale first. But before we hold the sale, the departments do go through it and pick whatever they would like first. And that has always worked.
So I heard maybe 70% of what Ralph has said.
Great at this time. We have got to decide, either us or the city at large, because of spacing, because of the pandemic, will there in fact be any more book sales? You can't get spacing in a commercial book sale. It's very, very hard. You've got a crowd of people, especially at the beginning, and you can't cut them back once you lose the sale. That's a decision perhaps even the law department's going to have to decide is whether or not we can even continue with them. And when it does, it requires a lot of volunteers. And sometimes the working area has 5 or 6 people at a time in it. It's very hard to retain spacing and still put the sale together. Now, we've missed 2 book sales so far. Last October, last April, and we were back in April again. So this is going to be the 3rd sale we will be missing. It's a good source of income for the library. It offers a lot of programming. Even the innovation blogs, it pays for a lot of things that do not fall into the budget.
So Ralph, just going back to the policy for the moment, as I understood it, your first point was that customarily all of the other departments would come take a look at the books that are set out for a sale and pick out what they want for their departments before the sale opens.
When they come into that early sale period,
Right.
all
So,
the books are category.
yeah, so
Each
I
department
don't,
knows exactly where their books are.
okay. So just, I don't see anything in this proposed policy that would prevent that from happening.
Well, if you look at the number of areas involved, would you want people from the children's department coming down and going through books when they first come in? Also, Norwalk Reads is not a library sponsored program. They come in the week after the book sale. They run their own show. What's more, they have their own warehousing. Why are they even in the library? They do children's books.
Right. Well, I think what happens is that to the first point, somebody may want to direct some donations to certain departments or programs, right? And
Then they should deal with them directly. But
well, that's what, that's all the
there's
power.
20 years Alex, it never happened.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Well, actually, things did change when Norwalk Reads, when we decided to take over Norwalk Reads, people make their donations here and they do have a warehouse, but right now we separate those things and we prepare them for whether it's the beach, whether it's just wherever. So so sometimes they come in, they want to go, we have the beach program, we have the train program, we have the Norwalk Reads program. So people do specify sometimes if they want to donate to Norwalk Reads. So apparently there was a partnership at some point. And this is not to take away, Ralph, from what you do, because we really appreciate everything that the Friends do. It's not to take away, from the items that you receive. It's just to have a clear understanding of when the items come in, where they go.
The thing is, who's going to make that decision as to where they go?
The donors
Well,
will
one place is the donor. Right? That's one possibility. Now, again, I'm not involved in the day-to-day.
Most people just drop books off and they never even talk to you.
Okay, so,
They go into a general amount, and that's what needs to be hauled and sorted. And let me tell you, no matter how much you ask, they drop off a lot of garbage. That's why we have a book dumpster in the parking lot. That's a lot of physical labor.
right, but I don't see anything here, Ralph, that contradicts it. That's my question to you, is it seems to create a system where if people wanted to donate to a specific department or collection, they could. If they don't, Patsy has suggested adding a general category. And what you've done about generously offering all the departments a chance to look at the sale books early on, that's been wonderful. That can continue. I don't see how what we're talking about here changes your excellent practice in the past.
Well, it's a lot of people getting their hands into incoming books. I've been in the library when the donations have been coming in, and you can see that other people are going through them. I have no idea. And I can
That's
tell you
what we
one
want to prevent.
down the railroad station, I see a lot of books winding down there that they have label case around them, but they came out of the Norwalk Library. They're delivered on a Norwalk truck using Norwalk gas, and they are books that are being given away for nothing. The purpose of a book sale is to raise money, especially for the children's department. And if there's going to be that much involved in the beginning, you're cutting down on the volunteer staff. It means that the various departments are going to have to give time and effort to go in there and sort books. And if there are books to them in particular, they've got to start storing their own books. That's the problem. We don't have storage available.
So I'm a little perplexed on what the confusion here is, or what the problem is. I thought we were trying to establish how donors donate to the different projects of the library. And if the library is putting books in City Hall, or the train station, or the bus station, or whatever, part of our mission is to get people to read. So I'm not grasping the issue here, that this is a proposal for how people donate, and the donor saying where they want them to go, if they even care. And that's why I suggested, the fifth option of just, we're giving them to the library and you do what you want with them. We don't want them to go to the Norwalk Reads or Sono, or we want them only to go to the main library. I don't know, but the donor, it should start with the donor, and then we find a way to deal with it. I'm muddled on it, so. What are we dealing with here?
I feel like what maybe like Ralph is, like, I think the issue might be that if we give people lots of choice about where to, like we give them 6 options or 5 options, now suddenly you're beholden to the donor to be like, okay, I need to go give it here, I need to go give it there. And maybe like, whereas before it was just kind of this one streamlined process where things kind of entered one funnel and then kind of went out. Now it's like, maybe there's layers of work that, might need to be addressed or accommodated. I don't know. I mean,
Can you give me a specific, Moina? Because there's nothing in here that states that anything is really changing. It's just a more of a streamlined external. So if people want to make a specific donation, they can, and it also helps internally. So I see the day-to-day that goes on, so it really would be a help internally as well.
That makes sense.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying.
It's not changing anything. So if somebody wants to make a general donation, and we give that to the Friends, it's not really changing anything. People who want to make a donation to Norwalk Reads, they make that donation specifically to Norwalk Reads. If they want to make a donation, we added the history room because maybe people don't know. And then, maybe people have all of these things sitting, we can donate that to the history room. So we added the history room just so it's specific, but it's not to take away from anybody or anything, especially not the Friends, because we really appreciate everything that they do, all of the energy that goes into those book sales. It's just to make it a little more streamlined.
Can I ask a question? It started from what you just said, Sherelle, is that
Sure.
it's perceived that when books are left, donated, they go to the Friends and not to the library?
So that's what
Is that the current policy?
been
For
happening, is that they go to the Friends. The issue is that sometimes people leave books everywhere. They put them in the book drop, they put everything. We're just trying to make it a little more organized, make it a little easier on the guys, you know, to have a little, you know, we can't just be calling them. They have lots to do. We can't just call them every time somebody, you know, donates a book and somebody needs something moved here, there, and everywhere. So it's just a matter for the internal to make it a little streamlined, but certainly not taking anything away from anyone. So if it's general, and maybe we specify that if that's what you want. If it's a general donation, then we can say general donations go to the Friends, if that's what we want to do.
Or general to the library. Why, I mean, the first entity is the library.
Correct.
The Friends are a subsidiary of the library as Norwalk Reads and everything else, correct?
Okay.
So when I bring books, I don't think in terms of one specific. I bring them and say, wherever the best use of the book and the information is for the general public. That's my goal as a donor.
Okay.
And I would assume that most donors come from that point of view, that they are not discerning. They don't know about all of these divisions within our system. So having general donation goes to the library. If the library can't use it, then it goes to Friends or whatever. Or if it's best used in the history collection or if Sono doesn't have the book and the main library does, then it goes to Sono. I mean, this is, it shouldn't be this complicated. It should be cut and dried, I think.
And Patsy, I am in agreement with you. I'm a little confused too. I think policies and procedures are always good. I do have a collection of books that I want to specify, you know, for Sono Library. And it's good to be able to read a policy that says, I can do that as a library user if I choose. You know, and if not, the donations will go into general. So I'm just a little confused as to what the issue is.
Yeah.
Because I see the policy as being general information, which is what we want to convey to, you know, our library users at all times. Just another question they won't have to ask. Can I give this to all Reads?
Can I make
a already established?
Can I just make a quick recommendation, Sherelle? I understand what you're trying to do. It's an operational thing, but perhaps adding a description to the different, you know,
categories,
different one through 4 will help clarify, and then also right to perhaps the library reserves the right to put it in a different section if that should be the case. If it's,
I think that's in here that if they, you know, have it as general, if they specify they want it in general, we reserve that right. And I like your point, because if it's on the website, we can put hyperlinks. So the hyperlink can go to Norwalk Reads. It can go to the Friends of the Norwalk Public Library. It can go to the history room. So
but it can go to general, and you've got the verbiage for general, but not the category.
And I just added it.
Okay, good. So it would be 5.
Number 1, Patsy.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So just one clarifying question. Is Norwalk Reads still, is it like, what is I feel like is it still functional? Or?
It is.
Okay.
So they stopped during COVID. You know, some people like the Early Childhood Council has, you know, reached out to see if Norwalk Reads and the library, if we're ready to do distributions. So, so yeah, they're still around.
But they are principally a project of the Kiwanis Club.
It is, and now the library, I believe when Stan was here, I believe that's when the library became very heavily involved, and we sort of became the go-to and the distribution place.
Right, but it's still, it's the board of directors, for example, is a board that's set up by the Kiwanis Club, not by
It's the
the
Kiwanis Club, it's the, what is it?
Norwalk Acts.
The chamber's on there, so
Yeah.
it's a nice collaboration.
Right, but it's not something that's the library's project. It's an independent nonprofit entity that does the purchasing and acquisition of books. And we've agreed to support them by providing a facility for distribution and by promoting the goal of distributing free books to kids.
Correct, and sometimes people drop off their books here,
Yeah,
which makes
yeah.
it easier for sorting, so, yeah.
Yeah.
I have just, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just one other thing. Since we have these, again, we may need to have just further discussion on this. Since we have these 4 or 5 specific designations of books, I'm wondering, and I addressed this mainly to Patsy, whether the idea of the general should be the last one rather than the first one on the list, since, a lot of people will just check it off. Whereas if it were the last one, they at least could work their way through the other categories.
I think staff can make the better intelligent decision on that. They know how it functions. I just thought having it in verbiage was confusing and it was simpler.
And not
then,
in the category,
yeah. And then, just to have Sono branch and not the main library, that needs to be clarified too.
Well, the main library was in here, the main library, children's and adult. So as I said, I didn't make this decision in a bubble. When we spoke, they didn't feel the need to have it, because if it comes in, as Ralph said, they can go through the items.
Yeah, I disagree with them. I think if you say Sono, then you also have to designate the main branch.
Main library.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just have one mechanical, I guess. When I printed all this out, I couldn't always tell when these proposals ended. And I kept looking to see if there was another page electronically. So if we had some kind of a closeout at the end of each one of these documents, that we know that it's done, it's the end, because there's one that I think you almost sign off on, the laptop one, I think. They have to sign, and my printout didn't print out any signature page, sign off page.
Anything, okay.
Where I think it's when they take the laptops out and they agree they're gonna bring them back, and
They're gonna bring them back or pay the penalty.
Yeah.
Yep.
So some kind of designation at the end of the document, like goodbye, something.
Usually,
that
if
lets
it's
you-
either like the hashtag or 00.
Something, something that lets you know it's done, okay?
Gotcha.
That's just a thought, because I kept trying to reprint them.
So let
Make
me,
sure I had it all.
so let me ask Ralph a question here. Ralph, you are kind of a unique figure in these discussions. And what I'm curious about is, let's say that after you have finished your superb lifelong work at the Friends and retire, will your
God forbid.
will your successor, assuming that some big-hearted, energetic person were to step in to try to fill at least one of your shoes, do you think your successor would be helped by having this kind of policy in place?
I would say the largest problem of all is the fact that all the nonprofits are in the same boat. Young people coming up to do whatever, they're not there. Most people, if they can, they're 2-income families nowadays, and the people we once had, I say the average age for our volunteers has got to be at least 75, if not better. It's the way it's working out. Alex, the one thing that needs to be clarified, because I think it's going to be the overriding factor, will there in fact be any more book sales? Some of the libraries have actually given them up. a rather modest sized library, auditorium to put the books out. But when we are under full swing, they're crowded rooms, and it's very hard with crowd control. It takes 2 weeks at an auditorium to run a good sale. But no, I don't expect too many young people to be in the wings willing to do it. And by the way, my retirement started in the year 2000. So I've been doing this as a retiree for 21 years.
I understand. I was trying to be, a little bit creative. Okay.
You're just trying to be kind to me, that's all.
Okay. Well, look, it seems to me that we haven't made a decision yet about whether there will be book sales. Apart from the issue about setting up, I do think that crowd control in terms of customers coming in is possible to do by having people schedule appointments and allowing 25 or 20, I don't know what the number is, in the room at any one.
Alex, I'm sorry. That's not how book sales run. The dealers come in the boards. They're in, and 20 minutes later, they're out. Another group comes in. They do not come in small numbers. And if we start putting restrictions on how they can enter a sale, our sales are going to go way down, way down.
Well, look, Ralph, I don't know what the public health limitations are going to be, and we're going to follow those. We're not going to follow pack.
That is important because, Alex, what could happen in lieu of a traditional book sale? For instance, we didn't have a Christmas sale this year. Now, the Christmas sale is not in the auditorium. We put a table out on the first floor. All of the Christmas ready to go. We lined up 4 areas of specialized books of that nature. That is doable. The sales area on the first floor, the on-sale, that is doable. Take care of it. I am worried about the multiple people coming in to large checks. That's going to take your money. We're in competition with others, but as I say, I found out when Bryn College gave up the sale in Greenwich, and others had done the same. Smith College gave up their beautiful sale in New Canaan because they simply wore out. There were no people to replace them. And I think we're facing the same thing. Everyone's getting older, and the one thing I will mention because it is critical to know. There are here.
I have a comment. I think this document is about receiving books. It's not about running a book sale. And so if we have problems with how we run book sales and that piece, that's another discussion. I don't think it is part of this document, and we need to separate the two. This is how people give gifts to the library, not how we run our operation. That's another discussion. And I think we need to separate the two.
And also I'd like to add that is there a part of, would it be in this document, like, my aunt, right, has written a bunch of children's books. I want to buy a bunch and donate them to the library. Like, how would I just go and, how would that all work too?
So
that's what this should be about.
Right. So you could specify, we want to just say if it's an adult book, we want to donate this to the library. You can specify whether it's history or whatever. Patsy, I actually just came up with a different thing. Instead of having Sono, we can have general, and then we can just, do a parenthetical phrase that says Sono or main library adult or children, something like that. And so when it's your point, just say if it's a children's book, you want to donate, to say you grew up, using the main library children's department. I would love to donate these to the main library children's department. Then we could talk to you about whether you want to have a book plate or something like in your aunt's name.
Okay. Because I guess we were just talking a lot about used books, so I was just trying to.
Yeah.
No, it's a great question.
About
But
new.
but it is about books in general, so that's totally germane.
Great question. And it also helps us flesh it out a little bit more. So it's a great question.
Can I move this discussion to the next item?
Well, Pat, just before we do that, let me ask this. Since I understand based on prior discussions that the library is not likely to reopen more than it is now, at least for the next month. And since we have a policy in place now of not accepting donations, is there a reason why we would have to not follow our usual procedure of letting this be moved but not acted on for the next, until the next board meeting?
I thought you were specific in saying that this is for discussion and we would vote on all of these next month. I thought you already said that.
I did, but Carol and I had a discussion and she thought if some books came in kind of somehow that it'd be better to have something in place. I'm not moving that we do. I'm just raising the issue. Since we have a current policy of not accepting donations, that's not likely to change until next month. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't just see the revisions that Sherelle will be distributing based on our discussion, move to the next item and act on this next month. Sherelle, is that all right with you?
It is. I just want to make sure that we have something internal so that there's no confusion internally, but I'm fine if you want to wait and approve this next month.
Okay, and then so you're going to circulate your honest revisions based on this conversation.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay,
Ask a question. So that means if anybody decides to drop off books in the next month, you call them up and say, come get your books. I mean, what happens?
well, we've said we're not accepting donations.
I know, but how do we resolve them just bringing them and saying, you know,
We have signs up at both libraries saying we are not accepting donations.
Accepting books. So can I just say something to Patsy's point? That did come up when I met with supervisors. And so, we said, because people are sort of used to this little loosey-goosey where they can, just drop off anytime. And half the time it's junk that really go, like to Ralph's point, it goes to the dump. What we said is if we have this in place, when they come, we're not going to be draconian and say, no, you can't do this, you need to call us or whatever. We would take it, but then we would have something to hand them so that they would know next time how the procedure works.
complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the goal of us having a policy.
Mhm.
If we move on to item number 2.
So it's basically because we're in COVID and we just want to have an addendum to our current policy so that, people understand that there are repercussions, if they're not wearing their mask, if they're not socially distanced. Also, supervisors wanted to just update one thing on the current policy. At present, we have persistent noise or talking. Cell phones can be taken only in a designated area. However, there really is no designated area. So we thought that we might just say persistent noise or talking, and then no cell phone calls while at public computers or in areas that disturb other patrons.
Sherelle, I'd just like to make a quick comment on the proposed code of conduct. Sorry, I know you jumped to the next page.
Oh, that's okay.
On number 3, I noticed number 4 has like a consequence. The security guard will ask the patron to leave. But I think especially on number 3 with the masks, what is that policy? Because I have seen some crazy things happening at like Stop and Shop, and maybe just be a little more clear. Are they going to be asked to leave? Will they be given a warning? I don't know how you want to handle that, but.
So you know what? I can handle that maybe by just putting that same language that they will be asked to leave. Good point. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Got it. Okay.
Sherelle, to the point you raised about amending the current code in terms of the cell phone,
Mhm.
you know, again, I don't like to get into operational details. That's for your management prerogative. What if somebody's sitting at the computer and they have to fill in a form and they forget something and have to use their cell phone to call their spouse or their parent to get the information? Um, you know,
What do they do?
So a lot of times they may go out into the hallway, depending on where they are. So it's not that they can't use it. The issue happens is like if they're sitting next to someone, people get really agitated and they get really upset. You know, when they're trying to concentrate and people are on their phones. So I don't know. So that, that's really a good point because some people need, if they're filling out unemployment and they need something. So I don't know. I know the main library is big enough that maybe we can designate, a computer or two, sort of off the beaten path.
or a hallway area or something.
Oh no, they can talk. It's just, so they get up and they usually go to an area. But the thing is the computer's not there.
Yeah.
But it's not that they can't use it. It's just not using it in a manner that's that's disturbing other people.
But don't you designate an area near the computers where people can use their cell phone to make a call?
Well, it can be near the computers because that's when they're disturbing people.
Some, you know what I mean.
If they're nonverbal,
They
as
can
Alex, yeah,
text. It says no cell phone calls. So if they need to text, it's not a big deal. It says just no cell phone calls.
can you say nonverbal rather than call?
Oh, gotcha. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Would that help, Alex?
I mean, I can't imagine it coming up. When Sherelle says they don't designate an area, well, I don't see what.
I mean, we can. We don't. I'm just saying we hadn't, but we can. If that's your preference, we can just designate an area.
Or they could try to join the board Zoom call.
Yeah, right. But why wouldn't nonverbal, a non-audio, if you're texting somebody, how is that disturbing somebody next to you?
No, it's not.
You're
That's why it says
talking.
no cell phone calls. You can text if you
Yeah,
want.
but you can call and you can call without talking and leave a text message, right? I mean, what's the designation for verbal audio versus non-audio? I don't know what the tech term is.
You could just put a voice call. I mean,
Can't talk out loud, you can't communicate out loud. How do you say that? I can't think of the right term.
So you don't think no cell phone calls? You don't think that says it? Calls?
But to Alex's point, which I think is a good point, if somebody's trying to fill out a form and they don't know the answer to something, they can't remember when they were born or whatever the hell it is.
You text them. You text the person. That's why you have text.
And that shouldn't disturb anybody. But if you call up your mother and say, when was I born, by the way? What's my birthday? That's offensive. So how do you designate
Well,
what?
then what they do normally, like if what happens normally, people are talking, somebody complains, the guard comes and asks them if they can move. And they usually just move to an area that's away from the beaten path. So just say it's Sono, they may go on the landing, just like outside of the first floor. and they may talk. If they're at the main
How do
library,
you define that? That's what my point is. How do you define the action that you do not want them to do? What do you call it?
so I guess we could just say, you know, please move to an area, you know, that where you're not disturbing other patrons. So I can work on that verbiage.
Nobody has any suggestion. I don't do any of that stuff, so I'm challenged with the technology and the jargon. What is the jargon?
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, Patsy. I maybe we could just say no cell phone calls while at public computers. Texting is allowed, because I'm one of those people that I hate people who publicly talk on
I
telephone.
do too. I do too.
I mean, it really is one of those things that really irritates me, especially in the grocery store. But anyway, you know, and I think it's important because I have seen people in the library having casual conversations on their cell phones. Unfortunately, dating myself, I grew up where if you said hello too loud when I was growing up in the library would put you out because it was supposed to be silent. But maybe we could just say texting is allowed, but no verbal.
No audio. I don't know what the term is. That's what I'm struggling, but nobody's helping me here. All of you younger people do all this stuff. Mona, you must know. What's the answer?
See, well, Moira did say verbal.
Voice call.
Voice calls. Yeah.
Voice. Okay. That's it. That solves it. Perfect.
Voice calls. Okay.
How about we require every patron to know the first car purchased by their mother with her maiden name as a security question before being allowed to use any computer? I'm sorry, joke.
It sounded funny, but I didn't hear it.
I didn't quite get it, Alex. Sorry.
Okay, so we'll let Sherelle work on the language. Call by text, but not voice call with Moina. And then send us those.
I talk in the grocery store. I'm sorry.
Watch out for
Somebody's trying to read in the grocery store.
I'm one of those that will give you an evil eye. Okay.
only like, you know, not all the time. I don't really. Once in a great while. That's all.
I have heard some conversations that I could not believe people would publicly be saying those things. It's like, are you really saying this in public? Okay, anyway.
I think Sherelle had said persistent noise or talking. That might be, you know, voice or talking with your current proposed change.
Okay, well, let's work on the language. She can consult with Moina by text only, and we'll move on to the next policy, which is the laptop vending machine.
Yep, so that's basically just to protect us, you know, legally. You know, some of the language came through the IT department, you know, just to help, you know, protect us legally.
Yeah, I had a question, Sherelle, and this is kind of an odd thing that currently we're letting people into the building for a limited amount of time. This policy seems intended for use during normal times when people might stay most or the whole day. So I'm wondering if temporarily you'd want to deal with it in the first paragraph, which says that the time limit for borrowing of the laptop is the close of business of the day borrowed. Well, if we're only letting people in, you know, for 45 minutes or an hour and a half, that's the period of use. I realize that going forward, we hope to return to some normal usage of people, but in the meantime, it'd be kind of weird to have an inconsistent time period between use and the period of occupancy by a patron by appointment.
Good points. Got it. I will update.
And just as a curious, do you have any idea of the date of when we might be installing our first laptop?
Absolutely. So we're thinking perhaps by the summer. Lori, as a matter of fact, tonight is going before the council budget committee, and then it has to go to the full council. So we're hoping sometime this summer, July-ish.
Why does it have to go before the full council?
I think they have to just approve whatever they discuss in the budget tonight. We've always had to go to the council. And they've made like revisions. I know they went back and forth with the language that was in the contract. The city got involved, to protect us and them. So yeah, it still has to go before the council.
Okay, any further discussion of the laptop vending machine use policy? Okay, then we'll see Sherelle's revisions and move it to next month.
Okay.
Next item is the laptop internet acceptable use policy. Sherelle?
Basically, the same thing. If anybody wants to read through it and have any questions.
Yeah,
I didn't have any questions. I just accept of, is there a sign off line?
Yes, I'll make sure that
Didn't-
you have that.
It
back.
didn't, does it exist and I just didn't get it printed or what?
No, we need to put it on. We just wanted to
Okay.
get through the policy
Yeah,
first.
okay, yeah,
And then,
okay.
and then we'll add it.
okay, great.
I do have concerns about this. And I think whatever we end up agreeing to as a matter of library policy, we will want reviewed by the city's legal department. It's internet access issues are ripe for controversy and legal dispute going forward.
Mhm.
I had a little concern, Sherelle, about kind of I'm not sure what to call it, maybe excessive hands-off policy regarding that the library's internet access is not subject to limitations or censorship in paragraph number 2.
Mhm.
Censorship is a loaded word. Obviously, we don't want to censor, but is there offensive hate speech? Are there offensive right-wing white supremacy sites? There's a whole debate going on, obviously, now about these issues and so-called Section 230. And I'm a little concerned about the hands-off approach that paragraph number 2 takes. I don't know whether there are sections of the ALA Bill of Rights or statement on filtering that we might want to look at, as part of our review of this policy, maybe even quotes of it. I haven't looked at them, so I don't know what they say, but I'm a little uneasy about this complete hands-off, because I think censorship is not something that we want to do, but material that's offensive, derogatory of someone's racial identity or so on, we don't want to allow. And how we walk that fine line is something we have to put some effort into drafting. But I'm not satisfied with this open-ended kind of laissez-faire policy in the wake of how the internet's been used recently.
Alex, when you say the second paragraph, how does that begin? Because I'm not sure what you're talking about. Which one?
There are numbered paragraphs. So it begins to remain consistent.
All right, I got the wrong document.
So there's one laptop vending machine, and then there's a laptop internet use.
Okay, all right, I got it. Yep, I got it.
Sherelle, if I can just add to that, what Alex just said too.
Mhm.
I'm not sure particularly with the kids. I know that MPL has certain limitations on the kid laptops, and I don't know if you want to tap into that or if that should be a separate item to look at.
For,
Other than-
for the kids, okay.
Yeah, so like the laptops they hand out now, they have certain limitations.
Yeah, and I think we should probably continue using those because they, they can't go all over the place with those. Those are the Chromebooks. So maybe we should, and it's certainly up to the board, maybe we should, just have the laptop vending machines just for adults and continue giving out the Chromebooks to the youth.
I don't know, that's a very new thing. I'd have to sort of think about. I mean, part of why we're doing the vending laptops is to encourage young people to come into the library.
Or even adults, who want to use them and may not, they don't have to come to the desk. It's just basically self-serve. And
Right.
the kids definitely use the Chromebooks. But either way, it's a board decision, but it's a valid point.
I think it'd be helpful, Sherelle, if, again, and you've got the links here. I mean, I don't mind going on myself to get them. I don't know whether, why don't you and I have a discussion offline about circulating these materials? I think this is a kind of a big decision.
Mhm.
You know,
I have a question about how the acceptable use policy is communicated to the user. I mean, is it like is it just in a paper format, or like will somebody say
Yep,
to
it would
sign it?
it would be on our website, and then they read it and they have to sign it, and we keep it on file. And if they want a copy, they can certainly have a copy.
I mean, I'm wondering, like there are some places where like it pops up when you first, like there are some, like when you go to a hotel and you have to kind of like click on their agreement in order to use the internet and stuff like that. I wonder if there's some kind of technology where it's like the first thing that pops up and you have to agree to the terms, or I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think of another way than just like manually signing a piece of paper. So.
Gotcha.
I don't know, that might be a whole nother thing, but.
Well, so the only thing I can think of is if we had another machine next, because this is all self-serve. So, they would have to have a machine next to the machine, like to sign off on something, but it would ultimately have to come back to us, so that we can have it stored in case something does go wrong and we can say, you signed off on this thing.
or Sherelle, couldn't we have a situation where we have this policy on the website and in
Of
paper
course.
that says,
Mhm.
as happens many times now, that your decision to use the laptop dispenser incorporates your approval of following conditions or policies or something. We'd have a record of who uses the laptop dispenser based on their use of their library card. Maybe that's a way to sort of simplify and not detract from the self-service positive aspect of the vending machine.
So if we have a situation where somebody uses it and something happens and they say, oh, I didn't see it. So we would still have to have a way for them to sign it, whether it's online or on paper, we would still have to have a way for them to sign off on it, because they can always say, we never saw it.
Well, I don't know. That's something that I would hope our IT engineers can figure out a way to put in as part of the vending part of the approval of the request to vend a laptop. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Westport and the other libraries that use them do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe part of this is we could ask you to contact the Fairfield County librarians
Yeah.
and has these vending about how they incorporate a patron agreement to a policy about usage.
Okay.
I have one comment under the proposed laptop where at the bottom of the page, financial responsibility, that
Mhm.
paragraph, there's just a typo there, I believe. It reads the cardholder who checked out the laptop or will be charged.
Yeah.
And I think the word or is,
Thank you.
yeah. And I would assume we have the ability to set this $150 fee. That's not an issue. We have the power to do that.
We do.
Alex? Yeah, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm just, it's a good policy. I just want to make sure we have the authority to do it.
Hold the board is responsible for the governance of the library and its facilities.
Okay, that's good. So you see, I really read all this stuff.
Okay, any comments before we address these to Sherelle's good craftsmanship of revisions?
Yeah,
It was a team effort.
yeah, a lot of work, good progress.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl.
Team, our team.
Maybe that this last one, in terms of internet policy and usage, may require a little extra effort. So I hope no one feels disappointed if we don't have something right for adoption next month. But the other ones certainly seem ready to put it on the launching pad. Okay. Let me just see, moving. So the last item under my section, and Sherelle, you can absent yourself, but please don't leave. I mean, is that I've had discussion with the Corporation Council about the appointment of a interview and selection committee for the library's executive director vacant position. And as we've consulted among the board many times, we have decided to form a committee composed of all 8 current library board members, plus Alice Knapp, who is the executive director of the Ferguson Public Library in Stamford, who has agreed to serve. Lamont Daniels, the Norwalk Community Services Division Director, and Ray Burney, who's the Personnel and Labor Director for the City of Norwalk. By establishing this committee, we are then entitled to undertake interviews, have discussion, and make recommendations outside of the purview of the Freedom of Information Act open meeting requirement. And that is the reason why I am moving tonight the appointment of this, excuse me, committee. And I would like to ask for board approval, and I will make a motion to approve it. Welcome a second, and then we can have a vote.
I so move the recommendation.
Thank you, Patsy. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye or indicate aye. Aye. Any abstentions, any objection? Then if not, the appointment is approved unanimously. Let's go now to item 5, the administration report from Acting Director Sherelle Harris. Sherelle?
She's muted. Sherelle is muted.
Do we need to call her?
She's muted, yeah. And Janie is muted. And Shannon is muted. If we tap on her, she doesn't work. So much for technology. Yo,
Nonverbal communication, right?
come back. Did she get it? Yeah. Oh God, everybody's muted. Sherelle's back.
Sherelle, we're ready. Wait, we can't hear you.
Back. Back. Hate stuff.
This is her.
Okay. So now.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, yeah.
Welcome
Okay.
back.
Mary's not with us. And
I'm with you.
okay, good to see you. Good to hear you. Okay, let's go.
Can't hear you.
Bro, we can't hear you.
No.
No. Zoom for the city just sucks. It's just the worst Zoom ever.
It's terrible. It's just awful.
I've been on Zoom and this is the worst.
Can we postpone this to next month and go on to the last item? No?
No, Patsy, I was telling Sherelle, we can't hear you.
Oh,
Yeah. Come on, sign off and try to sign off and sign back on again. So if she does, she removes me.
unbelievable.
She's signing off and gonna try to sign back on.
I was just gonna tell her that.
Hey, Patsy, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Alex, are there items that we absolutely have to do tonight, or can we get a written report or something?
You could. Did she call me or something? Call me? Mary, can you ask her to call me and I'll try to do it through my phone? Well, we'll give it 2 more minutes and then we'll just adjourn the meeting.
Alex, did we make any decisions about executive session or perhaps, I mean, any kind of meeting before the interviews?
Sorry, Moira, Sherelle's calling me.
Okay.
Hello? Sherelle, you got to get yourself a computer. Can you, are you ready to make a report to the board? All right, so hang on. So can we please reconvene? And Sherelle has some announcements to make.
Or I can send them via email because we're going to send out a blast tomorrow anyway. So I can just send them via email if that works better.
Okay, so she can do an email blast tomorrow. Is there any objection to that?
No,
Not for me.
not
All
for
right,
me.
that's for everybody. Thank you, Sherelle.
You're very welcome, Alex. Have a good night.
Okay, good night. I'm sorry, Moira. I didn't get a clear feedback from people's interests.
Well, I mean, because I'm trying to understand. So we wouldn't be meeting until
We're not
the
having
actual interviews, right?
any discussion. You want me to convene right now a executive session?
I mean,
If we're going to discuss process, yes.
Okay, so let's end this. And Anthony, are you still on?
Yes, I am here. I can send you an invite.
Can you send everybody an invite or you don't have their emails?
I think I do. Let me do it right now.
why can't we just stay on here?
Because this is a
This
public.
is a public.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All right, just sent.
All right, so we're going to then, is there a motion to go into executive session?
I
For the-
so move.
All right, Patsy moves. Any discussion? Moina seconds. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye. All right, so we close out of here, we start over again, correct?
Exit out of this Zoom and we go to the information that Anthony just said.
Okay.
Okay, at the time,
Hopefully it works.
the time is 9:12. Thank you.